Hello, welcome to another edition of Convict Inc. I'm your host, Robert Rosso. It's been a week today since I posted a video. And of course, that was the first Bernie Madoff video. And my intent was to then post the second one on Tuesday. On Wednesday, I did in fact do the second video, and I missed some stuff. Realized that I needed to find the original interview that I did with him, and then life got in the way. Things happened, not only including, I should say, I started feeling down, and I got an infection in my tooth. I woke up with my face swollen, had some kind of infection, and I had to get a tooth pulled in the back, and all that. Some of you guys know I put some comments on, I posted some stuff about it. Anyway, I apologize to the subscribers that have been waiting. I apologize to the people that have been waiting for the Bernie stuff or just anything in general. Yeah, I do. I'm sorry. Please hit the subscribe button if you have not subscribed. Over 5,300 now. It's awesome. And if you like the video, please push the like button. Okay. So when I left off last, I was on my way to Butner 2. I had done the Bernie Madoff interview. I need to back up a little bit. As I mentioned, I started Convict Inc., which was supposed to be a prison pen pal website where prisoners can post artwork, blog posts, etc. And I was the only one that ever really did. The website never got taken off the ground, and Bernie came along. Because I was posting material about Bernie, reporters from around the world started reaching out to me, asking questions. And one of those people found me because of a Facebook post I put up. When they passed the financial reform bill, I think it was called, Bernie made a comment on the yard that the bill was a joke. And I put something on my Facebook page. Bernie Madoff said the financial bill was a joke or something of that nature. And somebody responded and said, what exactly did he say? And that person was a guy named Mark Seal. At the time, I did not know who Mark Seal was. Mark Seal was a reporter for Vanity Fair. And once I dug in and found out who this guy was, I instantly became a fan. I talked to Mark on the phone several times. And what he wanted to do was collaborate, get a story, do it together, give me writing credits. I mean, that would have put me on the map as a writer. I mean, it would have just been fantastic. And here's the reason why I backed out. Carmine Persico. Bernie didn't care what I wrote. Bernie probably would have gave me an interview if he would have realized, I would have taken it and been writing with Mark Seal on a piece for Vanity Fair. But Carmine was like really anti-reporter, and he got it in my head that I was going to get screwed and this and that, and for some reason it just made sense. I didn't know the industry, I didn't know how things work, and that was probably the first really big mistake as far as any kind of writing or journalist career or whatever. That would have just been so huge, and I probably would have got paid a big chunk, even though prisoners aren't supposed to be paid to write. Anyway, okay, that got shot down. Who I did become friends with, and as I said in the first video, was a guy named Steve Fishman. Steve wrote a piece, Bernie Madoff Free at Last. I criticized it. We started corresponding. About a month before I found out that I had to leave Butner 1, Steve started telling me he was going to write another piece about Bernie, and started asking me questions and asked me to give Bernie a letter that he forwarded to me. I did. As I mentioned in the first video, Bernie asked me what I thought. I told him to go ahead. I think he should do the interview with Steve Fishman, and that it was going to help me because New York Magazine was going to post the interview that I did with Bernie, which would have been his first interview. Subsequently, he did an interview with a lady about in regards to a book deal that she had. So that was never supposed to be a one-on-one interview, which was supposed to be posted. It was supposed to be part of a book. Now, I find out I get transferred. I'm getting transferred. I run to Bernie. I tell him that I'm getting transferred, and I meet him, and I tell him that I'm leaving tomorrow. We need to meet in the library. I found recently, just asked my wife had kept all these years, the original interview that I did with Bernie. That is the questions that I wrote in his handwriting. I have this. As a matter of fact, I think it was the Inquirer. I forgot, one of those magazines offered me like $3,500 for it when they realized that I had it, and that was some years back. But I've got Bernie Madoff's handwritten interview to all my questions. I'm going to read a few. It went like this. I told you that, I ran in and I realized that I didn't even know what to ask the guy once he gave me permission to give the interview. I had like literally that night, and it was done because I was leaving the next day. We went to the library. He started writing these questions down. He didn't finish. He brought it back to the unit with him, gave it to me the next morning, then came back right before I left and had me make a few changes. So here is one of the things. I started off because I knew this. Your wife, Ruth, has suggested that you write a memoir and donate the proceeds to the victims of your crime. Are you considering writing a book, and if so, when? Possibly in the future. Ruth has voluntarily turned over her assets to the government with the understanding that this would go to my victims. She was also allowed to keep some money to cover her legal fees and living expenses for the remainder of her life. In spite of this, she, as well as my family, have been villainized by the media, none of whom have been charged with having any knowledge of my crime, much less participating in it. The malicious and disgraceful lies that reported in the New York Post regarding my refusal to attend my son's funeral, which in fact never took place, is an example of what my family has been subjected to. I will forever be tormented by my son's death. I love my wife, sons, and brother more than life itself, and will never forgive myself for the pain and suffering I have caused them. When the financial reform... Oh, that was what he said. When the financial reform bill was passed last year, you called it a joke. Could you explain why? The bill was so watered down that it did little to prevent the similar problems in the future. There were some steps taken that were good in the beginning, like a central clearinghouse for derivatives. However, the OTC customized derivatives will still be outside of the clearinghouse, as well as direct regulatory oversight. I know some people got a little lost. I get it. The major problem is that the makeup of the investment landscape is so stacked against the individual investor due to the power of the large investor banks and hedge funds who control the flow of information and trading impact. Also, research has taken a back seat to inside information. Okay, so I brought up a former about John Mancini written a book. John Mancini has written a book about the conversations he supposedly had with you. Bernie criticized John. Any conversations I had with John was limited to my concerns for my family, and so forth. Okay, so I guess two things out of this. I asked him if he would ever do an interview because he was anti-press, wasn't doing it. And he said with Barbara Walters, he would consider it. So remember that. And at the end, the question I asked was this, and finally I have to ask this question, Bernie, was it worth it? I never planned to commit a crime. I built a very successful trading and market-making business with my brother and sons. This was highly profitable and respected business and completely legitimate. My family spent their entire career working to make the industry a more efficient and transparent marketplace. I was worth $1 billion before my problem started. My mistake was not returning those monies from the funds once I realized that the market was not conducive to the strategy I was using due to the recession of the 90s. Instead, I invested their funds in US Treasuries and CDs earning 2% while shorting the trades as a dealer, earning them 12% to 2%, giving me a net loss. These funds had to know I was shorting them trades to them with the market condition present at the time. It was their greed that kept them insisting I honor my commitments to invest their monies along with my unwillingness to lose them as clients. Did you catch that? It was their greed. He did say that. He said that was the real problem, is they kept pushing him to go back and invest more. He was saying that everybody knew it was a fraud. I remember that. Once I realized I might not be able to accomplish this, meaning return the money, I tried to return my individual investors' monies, but met a great deal of resistance from the people. The problem was also that the domestic hedge funds started to solicit my clients to invest through them. This would have not accomplished saving them from losses, so I just gave up the idea of returning their monies. Sounds a little convenient, but yeah, I know. This is in no way to excuse my actions. However, it was never my intention to harm anyone. It was a tragic mistake on my part. But to answer your question, I destroyed a legacy that was created by my brother and sons that took 50 years to build. Nothing could be worth that. That was pretty powerful. People say that he showed no remorse. That really wasn't true. Now, I just read a part. He did kind of lash out and blame others. I will tell you this. He also said that the banks knew. He said he had one account. I don't know. You guys can look into it. He said he had one account that all the money went into. So any idiot could realize that what he was doing. But yeah, so he blamed a little bit. Anyway, so I have that handwritten interview. We'll talk about that later. Got the interview, put it in the mailbox. I actually wrote a bunch. I actually put it on the computer in the inmate computer system, which is called TrueLinks. Held on to it. Put the hard copy in the mail, mailed it off, and got transferred. I was up at Butner, FCI 2. That's right up the hill from Butner 1 where Bernie was, for about a week. And I was walking the track one day with my ex-cellie and a good friend of mine by the name of Billy Bruce. And here comes 3 officers. It's pointed, they had my card, they had a card in their hand, pointed at me, said, "Come here." Off to the hole I went. Nobody would tell me why I was in the hole. I had no contact. They put me in the cell with somebody because they didn't have any other room. But I was allowed to have no mail, no phone contact. That was the orders. Well, my cellie had to use the phone that night, so I immediately grabbed the phone, called it because they were stupid. "You can't use the phone. Here, Sally, use the phone." Of course, I grabbed it and the phone was on and I called and told family people I was in the hole, especially Steve Fishman. Why Steve Fishman? Because I had done the interview. I was waiting to see what New York Magazine was saying. And in fact, this is what they came back with. This is Steve. "There was some really good stuff in here," Steve wrote. "The editors are excited to get ready and started. I'm just waiting on Ira's okay." Ira was the Bernie's attorney that had to give the okay before we can publish anything. And that would be this last email that I got from Steve Fishman. On the morning of January 28th, I logged off to my account, only learned that prison officials had blocked communications between Steve and I. Then shortly after 1 p.m., while I was out in the yard walking, 2 correctional officers approached me. Actually, there's 3. "Come on, Ross." So one of them said, "You're going to the hole." Okay, so Steve Fishman gets blocked from contacting inmates, period. I'm surprised that didn't happen before because he was sending letters and offering phone money to talk about Bernie. Note to reporters, you can't do that. As an inmate, writer, I can write stuff, but I can't write under, the policy was I could not write under a byline. Also, I couldn't write about inmates if they didn't want me to. That was like the conditions. But there was this really gray area. It was all messed up. And I exploited every little crack in that policy that I could. Now, they locked me up. They were doing a round, and I'm like, "Hey, Warden SIS," that's what Warden SIS, Captain, "why am I here?" They said, "You're not here because of us. You're here because SIS down at the 1 made us lock you up." Now, the SIS down at the 1, I found that a little hard because those guys were like all supportive of what I was doing. They watched me from coming to Butner 1, from being somebody who was involved in prison politics, a stone cold dope fiend, to sobering up for more than 3 years, becoming a writer, and really like turning my life around. So they were supportive and they knew I was writing about Bernie, so that didn't make sense. Okay, well, I would find out what happened from a friend named Patty. Patty went down on a hospital trip. The Butner facility has 5 prisons, one of which is the FMC, it's a hospital. And each of the prisons sends inmates to the hospital where everybody congregates together. At that time they did. And then they go back to their units. So they take buses to the hospital and everybody gets to talk. Patty saw Bernie. Bernie sent a message to me saying, "Hey, 2 things. Number 1, I got locked up because Associate Warden Deborah Gonzalez threw a fit that I interviewed Bernie. They locked him up for a week down at the one. He was questioned. They asked if everything I said in the interview was true. He said, yes, I did no wrong. They let us out. However, Bernie did think that I was going to not do an interview with New York Magazine, or that I was no longer trying. So he gave the okay for that woman who wrote the book. And I don't mean to say that woman, I forgot her name. The woman who wrote the book about him to do actually let excerpts of the book go in interview form. And he gave her permission, thinking that I was not going to do it. I had to go back and look, and that's what happened. I was reading notes on this. So I'm at the hospital right when I get out of the hole, and I see Bernie Madoff's first interview, and I was just sick. I was crushed because, like, I'm waiting for New York Magazine to release my interview. And at the time, I didn't even know what happened. To add injury to insult, on suspicion to be clear to me, okay, hold on just a second. It was February 28th. The interview, my interview in New York Magazine was supposed to go up. Also, Steve Fishman had contacted my family and friends and told me to be watching the Today Show. He was going to do the media rounds in the morning about the Bernie Madoff interview. Well, this is what happened. I'm just trying to, I'm sorry. I found out that morning I had family and friends watching. I believe that Steve Fishman's going to go on there and talk about Bernie in the interview that he got from me. And, you know, I believed like I had the big interview at this time, okay? I look up, there's a Today Show, which I never watched. And there's Steve Fishman, and all of a sudden, boom, I hear Bernie's voice. What Steve Fishman did is he recorded Bernie's conversations with him, which was smart, and he released Bernie Madoff's phone tapes. That was the interview. Now, what he did with my piece is he created a little side story called Bernie Madoff's Prison Buddy or Prison Pal or something, a little goofy. But he wrote a good piece on me, and he used excerpts of my interview in that piece. He actually used it in a story that he wrote too. He did do a print story for New York Magazine, but the thing that got the attention, of course, was the tapes. So all day you're hearing Bernie Madoff, all over the news. It's Bernie Madoff's voice. And of course, that's going to overshadow anything I did. I also had my interview with Bernie released on Convict Inc. and Robert Rosso WordPress. WordPress was being run by my pen pal, who's now my wife, Marta, that she created as a free Robert Rosso site. It was to bring notoriety to the site, for everybody to sign an online petition for me to get a clemency. That was the whole goal of Robert Rosso WordPress. So, of course, I wanted that interview on there because a lot of people would go to it. And Steve, sure enough, did talk about it and provided him links to it and all that stuff. But I then watched CBS. So I watched the Today Show, NBC, CBS, and then, of course, Good Morning America. Steve did the rounds. No mention of Robert Rosso, no mention of Robert Rosso's interview, all about the Bernie Madoff's phone tapes. Then at nighttime, Brian Ross, who was a senior correspondent for ABC News at the time, did this hit piece on Bernie. I mean, they took what Steve Fishman was saying and really trashed Bernie. And I'm going to tell you something. So what they did with his voice, with Bernie's voice, is they took clips and they just took them way out of context. If he thought he was going to try to rehabilitate his image, which he never said that, I don't know. It was like the opposite could have happened. It made him like more of a monster. And I'm going to tell you, I felt like a fucking piece of shit because he didn't want to do the interview with Fishman. I said yes. I think he's going to do good. I think he's going to do right. You know, do it for me. I'm going to get a piece in a New York magazine. Oh, and I got offered money by New York magazine. I forgot how much, $3 a word, or I forgot what it was. So I could have got paid big money. I could have told Steve Fishman, no, I'm not going to give you that letter. Bernie's not going to do it. And my interview would have been done, you know, Steve would have written something in, and I would have got paid big money. I declined the money because I didn't want to get in any trouble institutionally. Even though I could have got the money, I could have got a small shot, 300 series. I was trying to remain clean conduct. At that time, again, I had more than 3 years sobriety. My focus was now clear conduct. I did not want to get into any trouble. Relapsed, you know, a month later or whatever, but anyway. So there goes that. Now, Brian Ross, I'm not going to say friends, I became corresponding with his producer, Megan Churchmans, and Brooke Strangeland, who was the producer for 2020. These people, not only, of course they wanted information about Bernie, of course they did, but we were talking about like a lot of other stuff, and I started, especially Brooke and I talked quite a bit for a second, you know, like when I say quite a bit, like more than 6 times in a couple of days. And we started becoming friends. On the morning, the Charlie Sheen, if you guys recall, had a meltdown when I was a little crack run with winning and Tiger Blood, and said he was smoking 7-gram hits of crack. People were applauding this guy nationwide. Now this all goes in, I'll get there. This people were applauding this guy. And I was furious. I was doing fucking life without parole for dope. And they offered me 2 years. And because I didn't snitch, they gave me life without parole. And Charlie Sheen's on TV saying he smoked 7 grams of crack, winning. And people are like applauding this guy like he's great. Man, that was like, oof. That was like, that made me so mad. I called Brooke up and I say, Brooke, he was going to air at night. They showed him in the morning on Good Morning America. Andrea Canning was doing the interview with him on ABC that night, or 2020, whatever it was. I called Brooke at 8 o'clock in the morning, got her on the phone and said, hey, can you give me the transcripts of Charlie Sheen's interview? And she's like, why? And I said, because this fucking asshole's talking about how he's bragging, smoking 7 grams, and it clicked. And she's like, oh my God, I get it. Yeah. Boom. She sends me the interview, the transcribed interview of Charlie Sheen. Before the world even knows about it, I get the whole thing. And bam, here comes SIS. Boy, they locked my ass up again. Deleted all the reporters on my list, all media contacts. And there was a SIS officer by the name of Bronner, who was probably 4'10", 4'11". To say he had a little guy's complex is an understatement. And I know he's going to watch this. Hey, Bronner. Said, there's no way in hell we're going to let you correspond with media people when you can have that done. Meaning, if I, an inmate in federal prison, can have Charlie Sheen's interview sent, it was like too much. That was just like too much for him. It was like too much influence, too much power. One thing the Bureau of Prisons does not want is truth to get out. I mean, that's just the way it is. Any kind of truth that's going on. So how does this tie in? Well, of course, Barbara Walters wanted Bernie Madoff's story. And Barbara Walters tied in with 2020, Megan Churchmans, Brian, everybody's together. Barbara Walters sees that Bernie Madoff wants him. So they started trying to get to me. Everything was, because I was corresponding, but all my media contacts, now I'm under heavy investigation with my letters. A letter comes through by a girl, Santini. Man. Carla Santini, which is Barbara Walters' producer. And she said, Rosso or Robert, call me. And when I called her, she said, yeah, I'm with Barbara. Hey, Rob, I'm with Barbara. You know, like, so this is Barbara Walters. I need you to hook me up. She said it straight up. I need you to hook me up with Madoff. And I said, I got you. I got you. So they were going, one of my friends was going to the medical the next day, wrote a kite to Bernie, had the dude stick the message in his ass, went to medical, pulled a note out of his ass, gave it to another guy that was at the one. That dude stuffed it up his ass. The kite gets to Bernie. Kite is a note. Gets to Bernie. Bernie gets it. Calls Barbara Walter. Interview set up. So at the last minute, they stopped cameras from going in. Bernie got a message back to me telling me thank you because he wanted the interview with Barbara Walters, but they were blocking all media contacts for him. So I did set that up. Pat myself on the back on that one. I'm trying to think. So in the weeks, days, years to come, I was able to correspond with Bernie through letters back and forth through people. I sent him some cards for the holidays. When Barbara and I got, Barbara, Jesus Christ, that's my second one. When Marta and I got married, I made sure that he got a picture because him and Carmine, you know, when Marta started writing me, they saw our photos. You know, they were definitely a fan of Marta. So got a return, you know, letter on that. And yeah, so I'm trying to think of in the aftermath of the Madoff thing. It's like this. I just kind of ran a blank, to be honest, you guys. Bernie Madoff put me on the map as far as writing. I started writing for Vice after that, and really, I slowed down or stopped after 2016. I wrote for other people too. One of the reasons, honestly, is it's causing me problems within the prison with staff at times. And when Trump became president, everything that anybody I was writing something for, I don't care if it was about why is the sky blue, why do I have paneling on my wall, why are the inmates doing this? They all wanted me to put some kind of anti-Trump something in the piece. And I even wrote a piece, I'm not going to put anybody out there. I wrote a piece one time that had nothing to do with Trump, nothing to do with politics, and they totally turned it around and even added words to my piece. I didn't say nothing, but I think that might have been the last one I wrote because it was like, they're not really supposed to be doing that. Bernie filed for a compassionate release. I think there's some piece on a guerrilla convict that might still be up. I forgot. Several different people wanted me to write something about it. My heart wasn't into it. I kind of like, there's no way I thought he was going to get it. What I didn't know at the time was there was a guy who I knew from Leavenworth by the name of Rusty Marks. Rusty Marks is, I would say, the best jailhouse lawyer in the federal system. Now, Chad Marks is awesome. Don't want to take away. I'm pretty good myself, but Chad Marks, I'm out because of him. In part, I owe him a lot for that, and he's great litigant, whatever you want to write, brief writer, whatever he likes to say. Rusty Marks is he's going to be a lawyer. He's out now. He had a life sentence. He's going to be a lawyer. He created the Samaritan Project at Butner FCI1. He and Bernie became friends. As a matter of fact, I've got a photo, Bernie's last photo. I have to get a hold of Rusty and see if I can put it up for you guys. I have it. It's in the phone I'm looking at. Through Rusty, Bernie, Rusty then had another person put his name on the compassionate release brief, a former inmate turned attorney. That brief, although well written, missed the mark. The mark on compassionate release is that you're supposed to show a lot of remorse. Bernie passed all the criteria for a compassionate release with the exception of remorse. If Bernie or the person who wrote that brief or Rusty or whoever, I'm not blaming one person, would have just looked at the article, the interview that I did, they just would have went back and looked at this. Once I realized, okay, remember, I have to ask the question, Bernie, was it worth it? Once I realized I might not, be able to accomplish this, I try to return individual money, blah, blah, blah. This in no way excuses my actions. However, it was never my intentions to harm anyone. It was just tragic on my part. Now watch. To answer your question, I destroyed a legacy that was created by my brother and sons. It took 50 years to build. Nothing could be worth that. And if you look any further, if you look at other stuff that he said in here about remorse, Ruth is voluntarily, I will forever be taunted by myself. I love my wife, sons, brother more than life itself, and I'll never forgive myself for the pain and suffering I caused my family. And nothing is worth what he did. The remorse was everywhere, really. Even the day he got sentenced, people say that that Bernie was not remorseful because he was told by his attorneys not to make a statement in court. He's got all the cameras there. And if you knew him and you talked to him, you'd understand that he actually was being remorseful. It's his way of communicating. It was a little awkward, to be honest. But I want to just make it clear, because the truth is that by the criteria of compassionate release, Bernie should have made it out of prison. If anybody wants to go pull up his docket and see the compassionate release brief that was written, he passed every step. They didn't let him out because of remorse. Yet he was remorseful. So the tragic thing here on this part, if you think that he should have got out and died at home because he was on his way out anyway, it was here. It was in the interview I wrote. It's in the interview I did. It's crystal clear. That judge needed to see that. Matter of fact, when I got out, he died. Bernie died a day after I got out of prison. That was one of the things on my list to do, was to contact him and see if I can help out. I got myself out. I wrote my own brief. I was going to try to do the second one, because you can file many compassionate release briefs. But yeah, so he, according to the judge, even, all he needed to do was be able to show some kind of compassion, to show the sincerity, and he would have been let out. And it was all there. It's a little tragic in that way. Now I'm going to say this. I liked Bernie Madoff a lot. I know he did a lot of shit. I know some people despise him. I know there were suicides committed over him. I know a lot of stuff. I know people believe that he should have been there. I spent most of my life in prisons. So other than child sex offenders, I was going to say sex offenders in general, but other than child sex offenders specifically, I don't really just look at people in prison and say, oh, you're a piece of shit because you did that, or the damage you caused on the street. I mean, who am I to throw stones? I mean, I sold a lot of drugs. Look what I did, the damages I did. Damage I did to communities and people and families, not $65 billion worth, but so as a person, it was pretty cool. I'm glad my path crossed with the man, put me on the map. Probably me and Marty were talking, but that kind of sealed our deal together more, because she was involved in all that. I do talk to Steve Fishman to this day. It's been a little while. Yes, I was pissed off. Yes, I think he was doing his job as a reporter, and that's just how it is. The phone tapes was gold. That was journalistic gold right there. You couldn't have got better than that. Bernie Madoff's interview from prison. And Steve's gone out of his way. He's asked if I needed do some work right now, is writing wise. He would help. So a lot of things have happened good in my life as a result of meeting Bernie Madoff. That's true. Now, before I end, any of you fans of true crime criminals or whatever, forget putting this thing on eBay. If somebody really wants to buy this from me, I don't know what I would take. I've been asked through the years this, like every once in a while, but I'm just putting that out there. infoconvictinc@gmail.com. If somebody was really serious, they can shoot something at me and I might, especially right now. I need I'm a little wobbly financially for a couple months, and we're just making a go of this. Okay, so again, and I can authenticate that. Actually, Steve Fishman can put his seal of approval on this. Well, there's many ways. It's been talked about in all over that I have this copy of Bernie's original. And again, so some people might be saying, like, who cares? Well, there's a lot of people. There's people that contacted me before in the past. Like I said, it was the National Enquirer, and they offered $3,300. That's what it was, and that was like, I don't know. Okay. Well, I hope I did okay with this. I hope it was clear. I know there'll be a bunch of haters saying nothing. I mean, a bunch of haters saying this or that. There's some really good constructive criticism too, by the way, and that's cool. Can't appease everybody. Can't appease. Can't please. Sorry that I was gone for a week. It's on. See you tomorrow.